Okay, here we have an empty scene. Today we're gonna see what is albedo and how does that impact lighting in Godot. Here we have an empty project, so this is how Godot starts with a default environment. Let's get back to it soon. For now, let's create a new mesh, a mesh instance that we can work with. Any mesh will work. For now, let's select a sphere. By default, Godot sets the sphere to full white. But let's add a material so we can change it and better visualize it. So now we have a material, a default material with albedo set to max white. Let's understand why this is blue. Although the material color albedo property is set to white, the sphere looks bluish. Why is that? It's because by default, Godot implements a default environment as I mentioned earlier, so you don't see a black room. So the best way to think about this scene is that essentially it should start fully black. So let's do that. So this is how it's supposed to start. So a good way to think about it is to think as a black room. Why is that? It's because that way you can better understand what is albedo. So albedo is a measure of how much light that hits a surface is reflected without being absorbed. Something that appears white reflects most of the light that hits it and has a high albedo, while something that looks dark absorbs most of the light that hits it, indicating low albedo. What does that mean? That just means that the object itself does not have color unless we have enough light so we can see it. So let's set up a scene here so we can better visualize the albedo. So right now, just so you understand, the background color, the way it is set up, is affecting the amount of light that is reflected from the sphere. I don't want that, so that's why I'm gonna reduce the energy level to 0 and now we are back to black. So I'm gonna talk more about this in another video. So let's go back to black. And then we have the ambient light. So the ambient light is the amount of light that is added to the scene. So let's add some light that is coming from somewhere to the scene. So if we decide that there is enough light, then the sphere will look fully white, because that's the albedo is the amount of light that it reflects. So right now it is reflecting all of the light that it's hitting it. So if we were to reduce the green and blue, we would see full red, because there is only red being added to the scene. And then if we were to reduce the red, it would do the same. So let's check the albedo again. Now that we have 100% of red lights in the scene, let's see how does that change if we change the albedo. So right now, this object is set to reflect all red lights. So if I come here and reduce the amount of green and amount of blue, it does not affect the scene because there is no such light in the scene. But then if I come here and say, this material, this sphere, does not reflect that amount of red. So even though there is a lot of red in the scene, this sphere absorbs half of this light and then reflects half of it back, the way it is set up. So let's see with another example now. So let's go back, and there is no light in the scene anymore. And now let's add some spotlights. Let's make it so we have this color that only sends red. And then let's duplicate it and put it at the other side. Another light. but this time it sends only green light. And then let's duplicate it, set another light that sends only blue. So let's make it them overlap now. So you can see here that most of the red light, the full red is here. So right here we have only a gradient. So what if we make the full red hit here, and now let's make the full green hit at the center as well. So here it's full green. And let's make it the same for the blue. What happens if we turn it on? You can see here that is approaching white. Why is that? Because it now, this mesh instance says that it's gonna reflect all of the lights. So here it's reflecting all green, red, and blue in this specific point. Because we don't have enough energy like that, we're not being able to see the full white. But if we start to increase, we should be able to see more and more of the white. So here you can see that there is a gradient here. So we are not seeing the full red at any point here. So if I start to increase, you should be able to see the line where the red hits its maximum. So if we increase this big enough, we can see that the red is now here. And if we do the same thing for all of them, you can see that the line is over here. So you can clearly see the maximum of red and now the maximum of blue. And now the maximum of blue. So now we know that we have the maximum of red and blue right here. So if we turn all of them back on, we should be able to see all of light being reflected in all channels. So that's why here it's white. And everything else is just a gradient out of this. Hopefully this makes it clear what albedo is. When you are working with albedo, that just means it is the maximum lighting that it will reflect back to you. Therefore, it will be the color. But at the end of the day, you should account for the fact that it may be the moon or whatever lighting you have in your room or your scene. Just account for the fact and everything should be fine. So that's it for today. I hope it helps. Thank you and see you next time.